What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The stalemate over the land rights for tech giant Nvidia's planned headquarters in Taipei may soon be over. Shin-Kong Life, the current legal rights holder of the proposed site, says it's open to dialogue with city officials and any private parties involved. Irene Lin reports.
A legal dispute is brewing over these two plots of highly valuable yet barren land, what's supposed to be the site of Nvidia's new Taiwan office. The Taipei city government says it's looking to end things with the current contract holder, Shin-Kong Life, citing reasons of stalled development.
针对 T17、T18 地上权一案，因为星光公司目前就该土地的开发进度严重落后，并不符合市府当时的招商期待跟预期，所以在年底换约的时候，我们将不予同意。
But officials' main concern seems to be TS Financial Holdings, created from the merger of Xinguang and Taixing Financial. To transfer land use rights from the current subsidiary to the new parent company, the two need to obtain written consent from the Taipei city government, which they have not. But TS Financial Holdings says is ready to talk.
我们希望，有关系的各方面都不要在媒体上。 隔空放话，我觉得现在最重要的事情，应该是不管是民间，不管是台北市政府，我们都能够坐下来，怎么样大家来齐心协力的把辉达留下来。
Some city councilors also question Xinguang Life's demand for a termination fee, a claim that Xinguang Life has firmly denied. The company says it originally asked Nvidia for $350 million to compensate for its projected profits in a written agreement. But since that agreement expired in late September, Nvidia won't need to pay Xinguang Life, nor would the city government be responsible for payment. Meanwhile, the deadline for a settlement looms. Nvidia has asked the Economy Ministry to offer a list of alternative sites by October 24th. As other major cities bid to host the tech giant, the Taipei city government has also suggested a smaller plot of land nearby, known as T12, and is determined to stay Nvidia's top choice.
辉达也已经表达非常清楚，就是只有新售和台北市政府解约，市府我们透过专案将地上权设定给辉达。市府的立场一直非常清楚，会尽一切努力争取辉达落脚台北。我们也会跟各方努力，来让这件事情圆满顺利。
Whether or not Taipei can make that happen before Nvidia's deadline, the common goal is to find a home for the company in Taiwan to secure the country's strategic role in the global chip industry. Leon Lian and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
A research team says there's a lot less water in a barrier lake in the mountains of Hualien since it overflowed late last month. The team found that the Matai'an Creek Barrier Lake has largely been filled with mud and silt and now only contains about 1.5 million tons of water. That's only 1.7% compared to when it breached and flooded Guangfu Township in September. The team is still closely monitoring the lake and watching for signs of dam erosion to provide early warning to nearby residents.
大体冲刷流量变大了，那这时候水位会很快的下降。那我们也可以透过这个即时资料去通知下游的居民，要及时做一些垂直避难。
The area remains under a red alert after 19 people were killed in the flooding. Hundreds of aid trucks have begun entering Gaza after Israel and Hamas agreed to a U.S.-backed ceasefire deal on Friday. UNICEF has started to scale up aid deliveries on Sunday, including food, medical supplies, and tents for affected children and families. Hundreds of trucks are set to enter Gaza daily as an estimated 170,000 metric tons of supplies are waiting in neighboring countries. Israeli troops withdrew from Gaza on Friday as around 500,000 Palestinians began returning to the devastated territory. A hostage and prisoner exchange is set to begin Monday when U.S. President Donald Trump and more than 20 world leaders will meet in Egypt for a summit on lasting peace. Former U.S. President Joe Biden is undergoing radiation therapy for cancer, according to his team. Biden was diagnosed in May with stage 4 prostate cancer. He also had a procedure in September to remove cancerous skin cells. Aside from radiation therapy, he's also getting hormone treatment. Biden's treatment is expected to last several weeks, and he will still be able to attend public events. U.S. President Trump is preparing to add more tariffs on China over its continued export restrictions on rare earths. The 100% levies are set to take effect starting in November. For more on the importance of these rare earths, here's a part of TaiwanPlus's conversation with Gracelyn Bascarin, director of the Critical Minerals Security Program at CSIS, earlier this year on Zoom In, Zoom Out.
To start off with, could you provide a quick introduction to these heavy rare earth materials?
Rare earth minerals are actually a group of 17 minerals, and they're a bit of a misnomer because they're not actually rare, they're everywhere. They're often found in small quantities and they can be difficult to extract. Now, the restrictions from China this week are actually on heavy rare earths, and there's a reason that we are particularly vulnerable for those. And that is that China holds almost pretty much 100% separation capacity of heavy rare earths. Because when I take rare earths out of the ground, before I can use them, they have to undergo separation and processing. The reality is that for light rare earths, there's some capacity outside of the US with some facilities, small facilities in Malaysia and Estonia. But with heavy rare earths, China was previously processing and separating about 99.5% of heavy rare earths, and there was a small facility in Vietnam. However, that's gone offline for tax reasons. So China now holds this dominance, not a comparative advantage, but an absolute advantage. And this is a really big problem for us because with these rare earth export restrictions means that we can't actually get access to them until China figures out a licensing system.
In the incidents of open conflict, it seems like the U.S. defense industry would not have a resilient supply chain to continue building more tanks, more fighters, more naval vessels as there is attrition in the battlefield. Do they have a backup plan to provide for this supply chain resiliency?
The U.S. defense industrial base is already on the back foot. CSIS put out a report, my colleague Seth Jones, who's the president of our Defense and Security Department last year, where he noted that China is acquiring and manufacturing weapons at a rate of 5 to 6 times what the U.S. is right now. China, he notes, is operating at a wartime posture and the U.S. at a peacetime posture. Now, the U.S. defense industrial base is not at a place where it has the surge capabilities to shore up these capabilities rapidly in the instance of active conflict. Now, you add in the fact that a lot of the strategic materials that I need for conflict, right? Rare earth, antimony, which was banned last year, tungsten, which was banned earlier this year, are things that China is actively stockpiling. And that prevents us from being able to get the materials we need to respond and shore up our capabilities.
So aside from the defense industry, what other industries are we looking at that could be impacted by these export curbs?
A whole range of civilian sectors are at risk. So automotive manufacturing. Automotive executives have already expressed their concern because we're building a relatively less profitable compared to China, electric vehicle sector. And we need rare earths for those permanent magnets in those motors, right? So easy example where supply chain disruption, when you have a limited supply of a material that is both needed for defense and civilian use, defense end uses will generally take priority, especially if there's potential conflict. Then we think about things like medical technology, semiconductors. Semiconductors are crucial for both their dual use, right, for military and civil use. Another example of where restrictions will be consequential. So we do see it to be in a range of strategic technology industries.
That was Gracelyn Bascarin, director of the Critical Minerals Security Program at CSIS. You can find the full episode on Zoom In, Zoom Out on the TaiwanPlus website or on YouTube. Police in South Korea's capital have rolled out an innovative way to project force and bring a sense of security to an area prone to crime. Tim Smith has this story.
안녕하세요. 서울 중부경찰서입니다. 서울 중부경찰서는 중부청과 함께 더욱 안전한.
A year ago, police in downtown Seoul's Jung district came up with an unusual plan for augmenting patrols. They began projecting holograms of officers onto life-size cutouts to reassure residents wary of crime at a local park. The virtual officers pop up every 2 minutes between 7 and 10 p.m. throughout Jungdong Park and come with a wry warning to smile for the CCTV cameras. The holograms also come with an emergency button next to the cutouts just in case someone needs to alert actual flesh and blood police. The idea came from Officer Kim So-hang. She wanted to create a visible police presence to reassure friends and family worried about walking through the park at night.
We project a video onto a life-sized acrylic signboard from behind. That way, the holographic video is displayed across the whole figure from head to toe.
The cop pop-ups have turned out to not be just for show either. They've apparently had a noticeable effect. According to city police records, crime in the area dropped by 22% between the start of the projections in October 2024 through May 2025, notably robberies and assaults.
Since these crimes are triggered by sudden bursts of emotion, it's usually very difficult for officers to intervene beforehand, which makes prevention challenging. In that sense, the visual message that the police are always watching helped raise awareness and acted as an effective deterrent.
But do residents in this Seoul neighborhood feel safer with the cutouts?
It looks just like a regular person, and when I see it at night, since it really feels like there's a police officer standing right next to me, that makes me feel safer personally.
Others may not be so certain. A British criminology professor says that despite the shimmering silhouettes issuing their tiny warnings from the shadows, crime could rise again once the novelty wears off. But for the time being, they're light in the darkness. Scott Wong and Tim Smith for TaiwanPlus.
Scientists have found an unexpected way of fighting methane emissions from cattle farming, a major source of this greenhouse gas. As John Ventrias reports, the solution comes from under the sea.
These flasks of goopy algae are part of a breakthrough in the fight against greenhouse gas emissions. Researchers at Taiwan's Fisheries Research Institute have found that adding small amounts of the algae genus Asparagopsis into cattle feed can cut the methane that cows emit by over 90%. The secret is in the way it alters cows' gut flora, as one researcher explains.
海门冬呢，它最主要的这个抑制甲烷的这个主成分，溴仿的一个主要成分，它可以去使这个瘤胃的菌相是比较趋向于降低甲烷的这个菌相的生成。
The trouble with research into this algae so far is that there isn't much of it around Taiwan. It can be found in some nearby waters, but it tends to disappear in summer. And it's taken several years of lab work to figure out how to grow the algae in the quantities needed for cattle feed on a mass scale. The trick was finding a way to get the algae to thrive, despite competition from many rival species.
会有对应的一个纯花培养的一个方式，去把它做这个汰除，最后只保留我们要的这个4分孢子体，让它在这里面是占据优势的。
And this is more than a scientific breakthrough. It's a business opportunity. Methane is the second most emitted greenhouse gas, and cattle farming is a major source of it. The industry looks forward to using cattle feed with algae to cut emissions. They can then market milk, for instance, as a low methane product.
甲烷的排放量一直是一个蛮大的一个痛点，能够大量的减低这个碳排放量的时候，都是非常一个令人振奋的消息。
The market for fighting methane from cattle farming is now worth $3 billion worldwide. And right now, there are only 7 companies with the tech needed to do the job. Now, Taiwan could soon be home to an 8th. Howard Zhang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images from France, where an almost complete 180-million-year-old crocodile fossil from the Jurassic era has been unveiled at the Lodève Museum. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.
Connected, we believe in the power of dialogue.
Taipei 101 station.
It's not just about the headlines, it's about finding common ground. Join the conversation.
Global semiconductor
administrations.
Connected on TaiwanPlus.